Hello and welcome to Collision Repair's Industry Insider. I'm your host, Max Reed. This week, we sat down with Jeff Pabst from Pfaff Autoworks to talk about what the new year has in store for the Canadian electric vehicles market. Pabst and his team at Pfaff have been gearing up at their shop in Vaughan, Ontario for the new wave of EVs expected to hit Canadian roads over the next year. Automakers from across the globe are investing billions into the EV market every year and beginning to shift more and more of their model lineups to reflect this eco-conscious consumer trend. Jeff and I spoke about what it would take to convince more Canadians that an EV could be the right choice for them, as well as a few things about battery repair you might not have known. This is Jeff Pabst from Pfaff Autoworks. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, Max, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad.
But basically, at this point, we're just trying to see what the consensus is for sort of the direction for this year and where people see things going.
EV, obviously, it's been, much talked about in the automotive industry for the last few years. And, we're a Tesla certified facility, so we've seen it firsthand, the increase in volume there. And then, being, we're a Volkswagen, Audi, Mini, BMW, and Porsche certified shop. And those manufacturers are all, pushing hard and heavy on EVs. So we've been looking at this for about a year now and gearing ourselves up so that we're, not caught behind eight ball when they really start to flood in. And I think we're anticipating sort of a rough idea is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30% of the cars we repair in the next, in 3 to 5 years will be EV cars. So,
okay.
There's some infrastructure changes that are going to be required from charging points.
What does that compare to now? Like, what would you say the percentage of EVs you do is now?
It's probably, other than the odd Porsche Taycan, I think since they've been introduced, we've done 3 of them. So that's minor.
Okay.
And Tesla would be, it's probably, I'm going to say EVs are probably 5% of our business.
Okay.
So, there's rapid growth. So I think the 2 main things are the ability to keep these cars all charged and topped up is a big undertaking. Just having a program in place to ensure that not one car gets forgotten and, the battery goes dead and you're buying a $25,000 battery. It's not a good thing. So you need to be on top of that. And I think the first and foremost really is the safety of working on EVs and every manufacturer, even between Volkswagen, Audi, and Porsche, their procedures are all different. Even though they're all under one umbrella really, but the technology and processes among those 3 brands are different in many cases. So we've developed an EV program in-house for mainly based around safety protocols and procedures, and then really marketing ourselves to the EV community more than anything. That's kind of where things are for us at this point.
Okay. In thinking about sort of closing that gap between that 5% of business to that 30% that you see, what do you think it's going to be that will actually change people's minds? Because I know there's a lot of reports that come out all the time of, Canadians want to switch to EVs, but they're unsure, they don't have the information or things like that.
Yeah.
What do you think will be the driving force this year that will change people's minds?
I think the accessibility to charging, and as the battery technology evolves and becomes easier to accept in terms of daily use, right? For me, because I'm about 35 kilometers to and from work, but I don't just stay at work. I'm back and forth to our stores and meetings and things like that. So you don't know on any given day. I don't know how many kilometers I would drive, and so there's a whole anxiety level of being able to make sure you have enough charge, because it's not like you can just plug in and a couple minutes later you're on your way again, right? So I just recently took a Porsche Taycan for a few days, and absolutely amazing. But I'm you always have to be conscious of where you're going and how far you're going, and when you can plug in again. So that's kind of the thing for me, and I think the accessibility, particularly Tesla, is it's just about everywhere. Shopping malls and Tesla centers and that type of thing. You can get charged along the highway. Many of the gas stations now have charging ports and stuff like that. So it's becoming easier and easier, particularly for Tesla. But the other manufacturers are going to have to sort that out as time goes on. So I think that's the driving factor that's making it easier for people. Because there's more and more, right? The infrastructure is developing.
Yeah. This maybe it's a bit broader of an idea, but it's just while I was looking into these sorts of shops like your own that specialize in EV repairs and whatnot, a lot of the drivers in I guess pun intended, a lot of the drivers in EV development are a lot of like the luxury brands. From the looks at like Teslas have obviously there's a cheaper one coming out from what I remember, but for the most part it's like BMWs, Porsche, Jaguar, like things like that. So how do you see the relationship between that and also once again getting like the average Canadian to not go for the F-150 or something like that? Not that that's also not an expensive vehicle. Maybe that's a bad example. Maybe a Civic. We'll say Civic.
Yeah, I think the luxury market is probably more prominent because the cost per unit is they haven't. The costs are coming down to make the batteries and stuff like that.
Right.
And so as the costs come down, then it'll open up new markets. Like GM and Ford are pushing heavy on the EV, more in the mainstream. And even in the European manufacturers, Volkswagen has invested billions and billions of dollars, and I think they have something like 5 or 6 models coming in the next five years, all EVs. So. Everything from like a e-Golf to the ID4, and then there's a new van, like a retro type van, like the old bus type van coming, and that'll be an EV as well. So the price points are all coming down, and Tesla recognizes that, and they have lower price models coming, soon enough. So.
All right, and I guess just last thing here, I guess if you could identify if there was one EV related goal that Pfaff has for 2021, what would you say it is?
I think to be ready for it, right? Okay. So not to have a delay, mainly from a health and safety perspective. That we have a clear protocol. Our staff understand. The requirements to work on EV cars. Like we have, one gentleman who's got an implant and he can't work on EV cars. We have another gentleman with hearing aids. Unless he removes them, he can't work on an EV car. So there's risks like that people don't realize. Yeah. And it's having the procedures and information accessible to the technicians. Prior to them starting on repairs on EV cars in particular, so they know, the health and safety ramifications, and cars are powered down and they're safe to work on and they're flagged as such, that type of thing. That's the number one importance for us.
Yeah, I won't leave you here too much longer. I really appreciate your time, Jeff.
Yeah, no problem, Max.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
All right, bye. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Industry Insider. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.